Yes, my friends, the Miami Dolphins will have a very important matchup against the Houston Texans this Sunday. We really need to win this game in Week 15, but in the last few hours the buzz surrounding the team has been dominated by a controversial situation. Odell Beckham Jr. has decided to jump ship. Before I go any further, I want to say something. If you are not committed to putting all your strength into the Miami Dolphins, you should leave. Also, Chris Greer, feel free to go swimming somewhere else. If you agree with me that we need another GM, hit the like button below the video. If possible, comment like this: the Miami Dolphins need to be renewed. So let's talk about OBJ. Beckham and the Dolphins agreed to part ways this week, and while the official line is that it was a mutual decision, the circumstances suggest deeper tensions within the team. Beckham's departure has provoked strong reactions from fans and analysts, with many questioning whether he gave up on the Dolphins during their playoff push. It's no secret that Beckham's tenure in Miami has been rocky at best. Once heralded as a potential game-changer for the Dolphins offense, Beckham has struggled to live up to expectations. His limited production on the field and reported frustration with playing time have created a narrative that his commitment to the team is wavering. Sources close to the situation say Beckham has sought more opportunities elsewhere, but the timing of his release, as Miami struggles to stay in the playoff hunt, has raised eyebrows across the league. For Dolphins fans, Beckham's departure may feel like a betrayal, but the team appears ready to move on without him. Malik Washington, a promising wide receiver, now has the opportunity to solidify his role in the offense. Washington's rise was apparent even before Beckham's release, with coaches and insiders repeatedly emphasizing his potential to make an impact. In many ways, Beckham's struggles and subsequent departure have paved the way for younger, hungrier talent to step up. The Dolphins have been no strangers to adversity this season, and injuries continue to plague the roster. Key offensive linemen like Kendall Lamb and Terron Armstead are either questionable or playing through severe pain, leaving quarterback Tua Tagovailoa more vulnerable than ever. This week, Miami's patchwork offensive line will face a formidable Texans pass rush led by Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter. Protecting Tua will be a top priority, especially against the Houston defense that ranks 6th in third down conversion stops. On the other side of the ball, the Texans bring their own set of challenges. Quarterback C.J. Stroud, despite going through a sophomore slump, remains a dangerous playmaker. Stroud has thrown for over 3,000 yards this season, but he has been turnover-prone, especially in recent weeks. Miami's defense, which has struggled to generate takeaways, must capitalize on those opportunities if it hopes to contain Houston's offense. The Dolphins' running game, or lack thereof, has also become a glaring concern. Miami's rushing attack has fallen from 11th to 24th in the league over the past month, averaging 49 yards per game in its last 2 outings. With a depleted offensive line and no clear answers at running back, the team will need to get creative to find success on the ground. This week's matchup has significant playoff implications for both teams. At 6-7, Miami's margin for error is slim. A loss to Houston could spell the end of their postseason hopes, while a win would keep them in the thick of the race. Meanwhile, the Texans are dealing with their own injury issues, including key absences in the secondary, which could provide Tua and Miami's passing game with opportunities to exploit. Stay tuned for the rest of this analysis as we explore the Dolphins' game plan and dissect the keys to victory. But first, we want to hear from you, the fans. Do you think Odell Beckham Jr.'s departure will ultimately hurt or help the team's chances down the stretch? Let us know what you think as Miami prepares for this pivotal matchup. Moving past the departure of Odell Beckham Jr., the Miami Dolphins are laser-focused on their Week 15 matchup against the Houston Texans. With playoff hopes hanging in the balance, every detail of this game becomes magnified. The Dolphins face a series of challenges, from injuries to inconsistent performances, but the stakes couldn't be higher. For Miami, it's all about execution and finding ways to compensate for their weaknesses. One of the most pressing concerns is Miami's battered offensive line. With Terron Armstead listed as doubtful and Kendall Lamb battling through injury, the Dolphins are left with limited options to protect Tua Tagovailoa. Patrick Paul, a young and inexperienced tackle, will likely step in to fill the gap. But facing a Texans pass rush anchored by Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter is a baptism by fire. Anderson and Hunter have combined for significant pressures this season, and their ability to disrupt plays could spell trouble for Miami's offense. The line's performance will be pivotal in determining whether Tua has enough time to connect with his playmakers. Speaking of playmakers, tight end Jonnu Smith has been a revelation for the Dolphins this season. Smith leads all NFL tight ends in receiving yards since Week 9, with a significant chunk of those yards coming after the catch. He's also tied for the most receiving touchdowns by a tight end during that span and has become one of Tua's most reliable targets. Against the Texans defense that has struggled to cover athletic tight ends, Smith could be a game changer. Creative use of Smith in the red zone and on third downs could provide Miami with the spark it needs to sustain drives and finish with touchdowns instead of field goals. Despite these offensive weapons, the Dolphins' run game remains a glaring issue. Over the last 2 games, Miami has averaged a mere 49 rushing yards, a far cry from their earlier season success when they were ranked 11th in the league. The lack of a consistent ground attack puts added pressure on Tua and the passing game, making it easier for defenses to focus on shutting down Miami's aerial threats. Against Houston, the Dolphins must find ways to establish the run, even if it means getting creative with play designs and using players like Tyreek Hill or Jonnu Smith on end arounds or misdirection plays. On the defensive side, the Dolphins face the challenge of containing C.J. Stroud. While Stroud has shown flashes of brilliance, his 9 interceptions this season highlight his susceptibility to mistakes. Miami's defense has struggled to generate takeaways, with just 11 turnovers forced this season, ranking 23rd in the NFL. This week presents a golden opportunity to change that narrative. Stroud's recent tendency to throw interceptions, combined with the Texans' offensive line that has allowed significant pressure, could give Miami's defense the upper hand. Defensive coordinator Vic Fangio will need to dial up a game plan that emphasizes gap discipline and takes advantage of Houston's vulnerabilities. Stopping Houston's rushing attack will also be key. Running back Joe Mixon has been in excellent form, putting up 4 100-yard performances in his last 5 games. Miami's front 7 will need to maintain gap integrity and avoid over-pursuing, as Mixon has thrived on finding cutback lanes and exploiting undisciplined defenses. This will be a true test of the Dolphins' ability to stop the run, especially with their playoff hopes on the line. One bright spot for Miami is the Texans' injury-depleted defense. Houston will be without standout safety Jalen Petra and linebacker Alshire, leaving their secondary and run defense significantly weakened. This could create opportunities for Tua and the Dolphins' wide receivers to exploit downfield mismatches. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, who have already proven their chemistry with Tua, will be instrumental in stretching the field and creating space for underneath routes. Ultimately, the outcome of this game will come down to execution. The Dolphins can't afford costly mistakes, whether it's turnovers, penalties, or blown assignments. They need to start fast, sustain drives, and convert red zone opportunities into touchdowns. On defense, forcing Stroud into uncomfortable situations and taking advantage of his turnover tendencies will be critical. For Miami fans, this game represents a crossroads. A win keeps the Dolphins alive in the playoff hunt, while a loss could mark the beginning of the end for their postseason aspirations. The stakes couldn't be higher, and the pressure is on every player to deliver their best performance of the season. Now it's your turn, Dolphins fans. What do you think the keys to victory are this week? Do you believe Miami can overcome their injuries and recent struggles to pull off a win in Houston? Share your thoughts as we gear up for this crucial matchup. One thing is certain, the Dolphins' season hangs in the balance, and Sunday's game could define their year.